When it comes to deploying MERN apps, I see two main options on how you could do that. The first option, probably the better one or the more common one, is that you deploy two separated apps. And with that, I mean that you use two different servers. I will come back to that. The other option is that you deploy one combined app, so all on one server. Now let's have a look at option number one first, so two separated apps. There, your React app and your Node REST API would simply be deployed to different servers or different services which offer hosting. In the combined app case, we change our Node REST API a little bit to not just be a pure REST API anymore, but to also have a route which in the end returns the React app, so that we have both the backend routes, the API routes, and here's the React app route hosted through the same or served through the same Node REST API. Because the React app simply needs a static host, which is why we can't deploy it on a separate server, a separate machine. We just need some server which serves our React assets, which is the index.html file, the scripts, and the CSS files statically. No server-side code needs to execute there. We don't need to execute any Node.js code or any other server-side code to serve our React assets. Therefore, we could use a pure static host like AWS Free, Firebase hosting, and many other providers for static hosting as well. You can simply Google for static hosting provider and you will find many examples. The Node REST API, of course, does execute code on the server, and therefore we need a hosting service, a hosting provider that is capable of executing Node.js on the server. And there, from AWS, we could use our own EC2 instance, which is our own virtual server, which we can configure to our needs in great detail, or Elastic Beanstalk, which is a service that takes a lot of configuration out of our hands and makes that easier. Or we use other providers like Heroku, and again, if you search for Node.js hosting provider, you'll find many examples. Now, in the right case, where we have one combined app, we just need a provider which is capable of executing Node.js code because, well, we have an app that needs to execute Node.js code. And then in our Node.js code, we need to ensure that for certain requests, we just return our index.html file, our React scripts, and our CSS files. So we will need to tweak our Node.js code for that and then just push it as one app onto some server. Now, I will show you examples for both. One important difference we also will have to adjust in our code is that when we deploy two separated apps, we essentially have the setup we had during development, right? We had localhost 3000 for the React app and localhost 5000 for the Node app. So there, no changes are required. And for example, we need to set these course headers you learned about. Now, if we have one combined app, we need to change something because that's not the setup we used during this course. And then, for example, we could get rid of the course headers because we would be serving everything from the same domain, and therefore the browser wouldn't need these headers to know that access is allowed to the API, because the API would sit on the exact same machine and domain as the frontend does. Now let's have a look at both options, and let's start with deploying two separated apps.